Good morning. This is Dr. Bob Uzzle, instructor in political science at Cedar Valley College. I'm talking to you today about local government, which is chapter 10 of our textbook. There's no question that every local government matters. All levels of government matters. It starts out saying that on April 17th, 2013, the tiny town of West Texas was rocked by an explosion at the local fertilizer plant. There were 15 fatalities, 260 injuries, insurance-related losses at $230 million, and federal disaster aid of $16 million. 150 buildings were damaged or destroyed. Among the major buildings so damaged that they had to be demolished were the intermediate school, a high school, a 22-unit apartment complex, and a 145-bed nursing home. There are estimates that $40,000 worth of sprinklers would have prevented the explosion, but the town did not have the fire code that mandated them. Under state law, both the city and the county could adopt a fire code, but they chose not to do so. Less than 1 week before the West explosion, state representatives Walter Price of Amarillo testified before the County Affairs Committee that all Texas counties should be authorized to have a fire code. The proposal was opposed on grounds that a fire code would require property owners to retrofit their buildings to comply with the code. And of course, that takes money. I remember that event very well. I'm a native of Waco. West is just right up the road from Waco. And I have been to West many times. At the time this occurred, I was living in Ennis and teaching at Cedar Valley in Navarro, as I am now. That evening, I was teaching a class at Cedar Valley, and I went to the computer lab after class, and when I got on the internet, I saw word about the West explosion. When I got home, my wife told me that she had felt the tremor all the way to Ennis. The very next day, I traveled through West and going to Waco. It's a common practice of many people going to Waco up to down 35 to stop at a place at West called the Check Stop for kolaches. There was a lot of construction on the highway at the time. I attended a symposium at Truett Theological Seminary at Baylor, marking 20 years since the fire that destroyed the Branch Davidian compound. And so we're coming up the anniversary of that particular event. And it's interesting, the West event occurred almost 20 years later. That was April 17th. The symposium was the following day. It was on April 19th of 1993 that the 51-day standoff involving the federal government, initially the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, later the Federal Bureau of Investigation. All of these agencies were involved in this, but it was a tragic failure. There's plenty of blame to go around. We won't get into that now, but about 76 people died in the fire on April 19th of 1993, and it was a total tragedy. Very, very, very sad. And exactly 2 years later, the Oklahoma City bombing occurred, and Timothy McVeigh had been to Waco and was very angry for what happened to the Branch Davidians. There's a picture here on page 322. It says sometimes the decision of local governments can have dire consequences. 15 people, including 12 firefighters, died in an explosion fire at the fertilizer plant in West Texas. West had no fire code, and thus the plant was not required to install sprinklers. This photo shows the memorial service for the firefighters. That was held that next week. It was held in Waco at the Farrell Special Events Center on the campus of Baylor University. I was able to watch part of that service on television. I do a lot of things for symbolic reasons. I went to West that day and had lunch at the Czech American restaurant, which did not get hit by the explosion. And I must admit, I was very, very disappointed with President Barack Obama. He spoke at the memorial service in Waco. It was a very good speech, praising the first responders, those that had died at West, and those who had suffered. That night, he went to a Democratic fundraiser in Dallas. West is right on Highway 35 between Dallas and Waco. Why couldn't he have stopped at West? Why couldn't he have gotten out? Why couldn't he have shook the hands of the local residents? That would have meant so much to those people. But he didn't. And it's, to me, there's no big I's and little U's. Rural communities, small towns are just as important as big cities. The residents of these communities should be treated just as well. And the 2016 presidential election, Hillary Clinton largely ignored small towns and rural communities, rural America as a whole. She also ignored the Rust Belt. And that was one of the major factors that contributed to her defeat. Another thing she did wrong, the Fraternal Order of Police, the largest police union in the country, sent questionnaires to her and Donald Trump seeking their views on law enforcement issues. They made numerous efforts to get response from Hillary, and she totally ignored them. Trump responded and thus got their endorsement. I'm not saying I agree with them in giving that endorsement, but I understand why they did. Nobody likes to be ignored. And back on track here, the fire codes are very important. And so it's local government has a responsibility of many of these things. On January 28, 2016, the United States Chemical Safety Board, an independent federal agency that investigates chemical accidents, issued its report on the West disaster. Most disturbing was that the board found there were 19 facilities in Texas that stored more than 10,000 pounds of fertilizer-grade ammonium nitrate, the chemical that caused the West explosion, that were located within a half a mile of a school, hospital, or nursing home. The board noted that these 19 facilities raised concerns that an incident of its consequences of that magnitude could happen again, in the opinion of the board. There was much blame to go around. The national government had outdated patchwork of regulations dealing with ammonium nitrate fertilizer. The state insurance code provided no additional protections, and the city had allowed schools, apartments, and a nursing home to be built close to the facility. And the time since the explosion, the board noted there had been only limited improvements in the rules for storage of this fertilizer. It singled out the new Texas law that allowed the state fire marshal to inspect businesses that store ammonium nitrate, but rely on the state chemist for enforcement as an inadequate law. Local government is generally praised for being closer to the people it serves, therefore being more responsive to those people than the state and national government can be. The problem is sometimes local governments do not have the power or ability to provide adequate services for their citizens. The disaster in West raises the question whether local governments are doing a basic job protecting the people they serve. Local governments do a great deal of good, and but nobody's perfect. There's no perfect government anywhere on the face of the earth. Governments are not perfect because people are not perfect. But when a disaster of this nature occurs, it does get people's attention. Corrective action should be taken, and hopefully will be taken, to avoid tragedies like this in the future. Certainly, local government plays a major role in Texas. Interestingly enough, there's U.S. Constitution has nothing to say about local government. It's pretty much left to the states to decide what, if any, right local government has. And all but 2 states have governmental units known as counties. In Louisiana, they're called parishes, and in Alaska, they're called boroughs. But Texas has 254 counties, more than any other state. County government in Texas is the primary way of governing rural areas. Because Texas is so vast with huge areas that are sparsely populated, county government remains an important aspect of local government. The largest county in the state is Harris County, whose county seat is Houston, the 4th largest city in the United States. The smallest county is Loving County, which borders New Mexico and has maybe 70 or 80 people in the entire county. Nevertheless, Harris County has a county judge, 4 county commissioners. Loving County has a county judge and 4 county commissioners. So I've heard that if you live in Loving County, you have to drive over 100 miles to go to the grocery store. So it's not real convenient. That county, because it's so small, makes the news occasionally. It's my understanding it's the smallest county, not only in Texas, but it's the 2nd smallest in the United States. There is a county in Hawaii that's smaller than Loving County. And they have their origins, the counties do, in municipality or Ayuntamiento, which my pronunciations aren't that good. It's the local governmental unit under Spanish and Mexican rule. These municipalities were large, included settlements and surrounding rural territories. 1835, Texas was divided into 3 departments and 23 municipalities. With the Republic of Texas of 1836, the 23 municipalities became counties. By the time Texas became a state in 1845, there were 36 counties, and when Texas entered the Confederacy, 1861, there were 122 counties. The number of counties increased steadily until 1921, when the 254th county was created. The underlying goal of the proliferation of counties was any citizen would travel to a county seat on horseback, of course, and return home in a day. Given the sparse population of West Texas in particular, the initial plan for county organization was eventually rejected. But it does show that Texans believe that local center of government, the county seat, should be accessible to the people. And, there's the counties and cities are all very important. There's an old saying, you can't fight City Hall. And there have been some politicians who've tried to argue that you shouldn't have to fight City Hall because it should be open and responsive to the needs of citizens. That should be the case with the City Council. It also should be the case with the County Commissioners Court. Often it's not. The main functions of county government are construction and maintenance of county roads and bridges, law enforcement, dispute resolution, record keeping, and administration of social services. Like most other aspects of county government in Texas, these 5 primary functions are performed with a great variation among the counties. And the County Commissioners Court, the main thing they're known for is roads and bridges. Sometimes county commissioners have been referred to as road commissioners, but that's not all they do. Another thing that they're responsible for is indigent health care. And there are roughly 134,000 miles of rural roadways and 17,000 rural bridges in Texas. Maintenance of these roads and bridges is a major cost for county government. And so you can't run any government without money. Money means taxes. That's the only way they get money. Well, not the only way, it's the primary way. But taxes are by definition compulsory payments to government. Our book lists different offices that are important in the county. The county attorney is the official who prosecutes lesser criminal cases in county court. The district attorney is the public official who prosecutes the more serious criminal cases in the district court. In some smaller counties, the same individual functions in both roles. The county clerk is the public official who is the main record keeper for the county, whereas the district clerk is the main record keeper for the district court documents. And then certainly not the most popular office, the county tax assessor collector, a public official who maintains the county tax records, collects the taxes owed to the county. They're the tax man cometh, and not very popular. They collect various types of taxes. To many Texans, their main contact with the county tax assessor is getting their license tags for the car. A few years ago, they used to be totally separate. You had to get your car inspected, but you also had to have it registered, for the county. And it may occur any time of the year then, but now they're tied in together. You have to present your inspection sticker to the county in order to get your license tags. Used to say they have license plates, but you don't have to replace them every year. And you can be ticketed for not having update tags. I knew a guy one time, he told me a story. This happened, he's dead now. He told a story many years ago, but I thought this was humorous. He got stopped by a police officer, and his license plates had expired. And the officer began writing the ticket. He noticed the inspection sticker on his car had also expired. Then he asked, "Let me see your driver's license." Guess what? It expired too. They threw the book at him. The county auditor is the public official appointed by the district judges who receives and disperses county funds. In large counties, this official also prepares the county budget. The county commissioners' court is the main governing body of each county. It has the authority to set the tax rate and the budget. And the county judge is the person who presides over the county commissioners' courts. In some counties, they have judicial duties, but the title of judge is largely ceremonial because their job is much more administrative than judicial. They preside over the county commissioners' court. And a county commissioner is a government official. There's 4 for every county in Texas. And their main duty is construction and maintenance of roads and bridges, but they also deal with indigent health care and some other matters. They are elected, and the areas that they serve are called precincts. A constable is a precinct-level county official involved with serving legal papers and, in some counties, enforcing the law. What I failed to mention a while ago is that you do not have to be an attorney in order to be a county judge. For that matter, you don't have to be an attorney to be a municipal judge or a justice of the peace. Some of them are lawyers and some of them are not. Now, justice of the peace position is not, there's no law prohibiting a lawyer from having a private law practice and serving as a justice of the peace. Many JPs have other jobs as well. And the county judge, some of them are lawyers and some of them are not. Over the years, I've seen a number of elections in which a lawyer is running against a non-lawyer. And the lawyer will say, I'm better qualified because I'm a lawyer. The non-lawyer will say, well, if it was necessary to be a lawyer, they would have made it the law, and they didn't, so it's not necessary. Every JP court in the state has a constable attached to it. The justice of the peace is elected, the constable's elected. They're elected independent of one another. But constables are best known for serving subpoenas and other legal papers. And that's it's kind of thing you have to get elected to. There's a picture on page 330 of the County Commissioner's Court, the main governing unit of the county level. Here, Denton County Commissioner Andy Eads appears with the Texas Motor Speedway President Eddie Gossage at the groundbreaking for a highway extension near the Speedway. For racing fans, speedways play an important role. I lived in Ennis for 12 years, and the Ennis Motorplex is a big crowd drawer there. But this is common knowledge among people. I've even seen this in the paper. It's a sinister side of it. The bomb, the racing fuel used in the Oklahoma City bombing was purchased at the Ennis Motorplex by Timothy McVeigh. People there had no control over how it was used. But that's another sad story. And shows on page 331 agents and drug sniffing dogs at the U.S. Custom and Border Protection checkpoint in Hudspeth County, 85 miles east of El Paso. Small counties in the U.S.-Texas border, like Hudspeth, have found prosecuting small drug violations to be too costly. And you may have heard that there was changes in Texas law recently related to hemp. And hemp is now used in a number of medical products. If those products helped you, use them. You know, that's great. I mean, but that's created a problem. Now, keep in mind, marijuana is not legal. Forms of hemp are. I'm not a scientist, but I understand sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between the two. And it's going to be necessary in the future. I don't see any way around it. We're going to have more funding. We've got to have more funding for lab work, because when products are confiscated, is this hemp or is this marijuana? Well, you got to have the right testing to be done to determine exactly what you have your hands on. So we're going to see more and more about that in the future. Some states have legalized marijuana. Some people say Texas will eventually. I have my doubts about that. Again, there's a big difference, in my opinion, between medical marijuana and recreational use. The medical marijuana can be used for the treatment of glaucoma, which is a disease of the eyes. I understand it has some use in treatment of epilepsy and in providing relief from the side effects of chemotherapy for cancer patients. Now, recreational use, that's a very different story, and we don't have time to go on that today. But all levels of government are going to be dealing with that in the future. It's not going away. Our textbook discusses different forms of government. The mayor-council form, a form of city government in which the mayor is the chief executive and the city council is the legislative body. In strong mayor-council variation, the mayor's powers enable him or her to control executive departments, the agenda of the city council. In the weak mayor-council variation, the mayor's power is more limited. Houston has a strong mayor system. Dallas has a weak mayor system. When Laura Miller was mayor of Dallas, she tried to get Dallas to adopt a strong mayor system, but she did not succeed. There wasn't a whole lot of interest in giving the mayor that much power, and it's understandable why. With an at-large election, officials are selected by voters of the entire geographic district rather than smaller districts within the area. In a single member district, an electorate that elects only one representative for each district. My hometown of Waco at one time had at-large elections. They eventually switched to single-member districts, and it's understandable why. South Waco, the population is predominantly Mexican-American. But when they had at-large elections, for many years, they were unable to get a Latino on the city council because Anglos across town would always vote them down. When they adopted single-member districts, all that changed, and there's been at least one Latino, and there's been a couple of Hispanic mayors over the years. So the at-large system was used over the years to discriminate against minorities. The commissioner form of government is a form of city government in which the city is run by a small group of elected commissioners who act in both legislative and executive capacities. The council manager form, the public policies are developed by the city council and executive. Administrative functions are assigned to a professional city manager. It shows on page 337 the commissioner form of government was developed in response to the devastating hurricane that hit Galveston in the year 1900. Galveston is that area has been hit by a lot of hurricanes over the years, and it's really sad these natural disasters they occur. And also there's a discussion here in our textbook of the different cities in the state. Largest cities: Houston, San Antonio, Dallas, Austin, and El Paso. They've dealt with different problems over the years. On page 340, there's pictures of African American mayors of two largest cities. Sylvester Turner of Houston, and he prior to this time he served in the Texas State Senate. San Antonio Mayor Ivy R. Taylor, chosen in a special election in 2014 to replace former Mayor Julian Castro, who was appointed the position of Secretary of Housing and Urban Development in the Obama administration. As you know, Julian Castro was one of the candidates for president recently. He's dropped out of the race, as most of them have, in the Democratic primary. Poverty and unemployment plague El Paso, and the city is trying to attract more jobs to the developing downtown area. One interesting thing, though, about El Paso, it has a very low crime rate, which is quite a contrast with Juarez right across the border, which is a very high crime city. There's special districts. That's a unit of local government that performs a single service, such as education or sanitation, within a limited geographic area. Many special districts you've never heard of because you've never had the need to deal with them. A school district is a specific type of special district that provides public education in a designated area. Non-school special district is any special district other than a school district. Examples include municipal utility districts and hospital districts. And municipal utility districts provide such services as electricity, water, sewage, and sanitation outside the city limits. And Texas has a lot of ISDs, independent school districts. They have one dependent school district called the Windham School District. It serves a non-traditional population, inmates of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. Several years ago, my wife and I attended a graduation ceremony for the Windham District. Inmates are enabled to get GEDs and computer training and some other types of job training. There's no question that someone who receives an education behind bars, the recidivism rate is less when they get out. But all this takes money. Property taxes is the primary way of financing, though there's other ways too. A tax based on the assessment of the value of one's property, which is used to fund the services provided by the local government, such as education. A user fee is a fee paid for public goods and services, such as water or sewage service. So property owners pay property taxes, like school taxes. Someone wrote a letter one time to the editor in the newspaper saying that cutting down renters, saying that renters don't pay school taxes, saying that apartment complexes are full of families with children, but they are not paying any property tax, any school taxes. Is that true? Not really. They just don't have a receipt for every tax they pay. It's a common practice when school taxes go up, rent also goes up. So renters pay school taxes indirectly. They just don't have a receipt. Hidden government is a term that refers to special districts of which many citizens are unaware, and there's quite a few of them out there. Then there's the COGS, the Councils of Governments, a regional planning board composed of local elected officials and some private citizens from the same area. I have had some contact with the North Central Texas Council of Governments in Arlington, and also with the Heart of Texas Council of Governments in Waco. It was the Regional Planning Act of 1965 provided creation of these councils. The COGS, they do not tax or impose user fees. They're not special districts, but they play an important role. Projects such as major water, airport, or highway projects involve many local governments, and councils are necessary to work across many local entities. Council of Governments work together. Different levels of government work together, and at every level, and it's good when they can cooperate. The capital appreciation bond is a long-term, high-interest paying bond that pays off both principal and interest in one lump sum when the bond reaches maturity. That's another way to finance government without actually direct taxes. And there's been some problems over the years with local government pension funds, the deferred retirement option plan, local government employees who are eligible to retire have their retirement benefits deposited in an account in which the benefits draw interest until actual retirement. Some of these plans pay high interest and cost of living adjustments and may be coupled with very early retirement ages. There's been problems in keeping public employee pension funds fiscally sound. And there's many problems related to local government. According to our textbook, there are potential financial disasters facing local governments and their pension systems, their method of borrowing money. These financial problems must be dealt with in the near future to avoid financial calamity at the local level in the next few decades. Financial mechanisms must be dealt with to fund an infrastructure needed for the growth of Texas rather than risky capital appreciation bonds. Many local pensions are costing local governments more of their resources, while the ability of those funds to pay the pensions promised to employees is becoming less likely. For Texas urban centers, the crisis in local pension funds will become increasingly apparent and as time grows on, harder to resolve. Most likely, however, this pension crisis cannot be resolved only with a tax increase. It will require pension reductions and ultimately a rethinking of how local employees receive support in retirement. Everybody wants security in retirement. It's very necessary. But this, like a lot of other things, is going to require some innovative thinking. Have a good day.